Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ruthless Retribution. Um, if this is your first time here, this is where we share stories about people who thought they could take advantage of someone, push them around, treat them like they don't matter anymore, and then found out the hard way that revenge is a dish best served calculated and cold. Very, very cold. Now, I want you to understand something before we get into today's story. People see someone in their 70s and they make assumptions. They think we're soft. They think we're confused. They think just because we move a little slower and maybe need reading glasses that our minds have gone soft too. They forget that we've lived through decades they can't even imagine. We've raised families, built careers, survived recessions, buried people we loved. We've fought battles they'll never know about, and we've learned lessons they haven't even encountered yet. They think grandpas just knit and nap. They keep forgetting that we also remember everything, every slight, every kindness, every promise made and broken. Our memories are long, and our patience, while extensive, is not infinite. Before we begin, I need to give you a quick heads up. This story involves some serious family betrayal, legal maneuvering, and the kind of revenge that comes from a place of deep, deep hurt. We're talking about a son trying to steal his own father's home. If you're not in the mood for that kind of heavy family drama today, I completely understand. Feel free to check out one of our other stories. But if you want to hear about how one grandfather turned the tables on the people who tried to rob him of his dignity and his home, well, stick around, because this one is something else. All right, let's get started. This story comes from the subreddit r/pro-revenge, and it was posted by a user who called himself Throw Ari Grandpa Henry. I'm Henry, and I'm here today to tell you my story in my own words, with all the pain and anger that came with it. The title of my post was Simple, Direct, and it tells you everything you need to know. My son tried to ship me off to a home so he could take my house. He forgot who paid for his college. I'm 76 years old. Let me start with that, 76. I've been on this earth for more than 3/4 of a century, and in that time, I've learned a lot about people. I've learned about kindness and cruelty. I've learned about loyalty and betrayal, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what my own son tried to do to me. My name is Henry, and this is the story of how my son Mark attempted to steal my house out from under me, ship me off to a nursing home like some inconvenient piece of furniture, and how I made damn sure he'd never try something like that again. Let me give you some background because context matters. Context always matters. I bought my house in 1979, 46 years ago, when mortgage rates were absolutely insane and everyone said we were crazy to buy. My wife Ellen and I, we scrimped and saved every penny. We worked overtime, we skipped vacations, we drove used cars into the ground, but we got that house, and over the next 30 years, we turned it into a home. We raised Mark there. We hosted every holiday, every birthday party, every family gathering. We painted every wall, fixed every leak, replaced every appliance. That house isn't just property to me. It's where I carried my wife over the threshold. It's where we brought our son home from the hospital. It's where Ellen and I had our last conversation before the cancer took her 4 years ago. That house is full of memories, good ones and painful ones. Every corner has a story. The kitchen where Ellen taught Mark to make her mother's lasagna. The living room where we watched Mark graduate high school on our old VHS player. The backyard where I built a treehouse that my grandson Tommy plays in now. That house is 46 years of my life, my sweat, my tears, my joy, everything. And it's paid off. Completely. No mortgage, no lien, nothing. It's mine, free and clear. I paid the last payment 3 years ago, and I remember crying when I wrote that check, because Ellen had passed away a year earlier and never got to see us completely debt-free. But I did it for her, for us. Now, I'm going to tell you about my son, Mark. And this hurts to say because despite everything that happened, he's still my son. I still remember the day he was born. I remember teaching him to ride a bike. I remember being so proud when he got into college. Um, Actually, let me talk about that for a minute. College. Because it's relevant to how this all plays out. Mark got into a decent state university, and he wanted to go. He'd worked hard in high school, and I was proud of him. But here's the thing, tuition back in the early 2000s, it was already expensive. Not like today, maybe, but expensive enough. Ellen and I, we'd saved some money, but not enough for 4 years of school, plus room and board. So you know what I did? I took out a second mortgage on my house. My house. The house I'd spent 25 years paying off. I borrowed against it to pay for Mark's education because I wanted him to have opportunities I never had. I wanted him to graduate without a mountain of student debt. I want to give him a better start than I got. I paid for 4 years of his school, every semester, every textbook, his apartment off campus junior and senior year. All of it. When he graduated, he walked across that stage debt-free while his friends were already buried under loans. That second mortgage took me another 12 years to pay off. 12 years of extra work, extra hours, extra stress. But I did it because that's what parents do. That's what I thought parents did anyway. And it wasn't just college. Over the years, when Mark had financial troubles, who did he come to? Me. When he and his wife Jenna had credit card debt from their wedding and honeymoon, who helped them pay it down? Me. When their first kid was born and they needed help with medical bills, who was there? Me. I gave and I gave and I gave because that's what family does. You help each other. After Ellen died, the house felt too big and too quiet. I rattled around in there like a marble in a shoebox. The silence was crushing sometimes. I kept myself busy with projects, with my garden, with the senior center. But coming home to that empty house every night, it was hard, really hard. So when Mark called me about 18 months ago and asked if he and Jenna and the kids could stay with me for a few months while they saved up for a house, I actually felt relieved, happy even. More noise, more life, grandkids running around. The house would feel full again. It would feel like a home instead of a mausoleum. I said yes immediately. I told them they could stay as long as they needed. I meant it. I was genuinely excited to have them there. They moved in on a Saturday in June. Mark, Jenna, and their 2 kids, Tommy, who was 7, and little Sophie, who was 4. I'd already cleared out the guest bedroom for Mark and Jenna, and I'd set up the old sewing room as a bedroom for the kids with twin beds. I'd even gone to the store and bought new sheets and pillows. I wanted them to be comfortable. The first few weeks were great, really, truly great. The house was full of noise and laughter. Tommy would show me things he'd built with his Legos. Sophie would sit on my lap while we read books. I'd make my big Sunday breakfast like I used to when Mark was a kid. Pancakes and bacon and eggs. We'd all sit around the table together, and for the first time since Ellen died, I felt like I had a family again. I felt like I had a purpose. But slowly things started to change. Little things at first, small enough that I told myself I was imagining it or being too sensitive. It started with my furniture. I had my old recliner in the living room, the one I'd had for probably 20 years. It was worn and maybe not the prettiest thing anymore, but it was comfortable and it was mine. It was where I sat every evening. It was where Ellen and I used to sit together and watch the news. One day I came home from running errands and the recliner was gone. Not in the living room anymore. I found it out in the garage, shoved in the corner behind some boxes. When I asked Mark about it, he barely looked up from his phone. "Oh yeah, that old thing. It didn't really fit with the room anymore, Dad. Jenna wanted to rearrange the furniture to make more space for the kids to play. The couch works better for everyone." The way he said that old thing stung. That wasn't just a chair. That was my chair, but I didn't want to make waves, so I just nodded and said, okay. I told myself I was being silly about a piece of furniture. I could sit on the couch, it was fine, but then it was other things, my collection of vinyl records, the ones I'd collected since I was a teenager. They got moved into the garage too. My old photos and frames on the mantle, the ones of Ellen and me, of my parents, of Mark as a baby, they got taken down and put in a box. Jenna said they made the place look dated and she wanted a more modern, clean aesthetic. I started to feel like a guest in my own home, like I was being erased. One afternoon, I came back from my weekly lunch with some buddies from my old job, and I noticed that a bunch of my things were missing from my bedroom. Not all of it, but some of Ellen's old jewelry that I kept in a box on the dresser, some of my old books, a couple of picture frames. I found Jenna in the kitchen, and I asked her, as politely as I could, if she'd seen those things. She didn't even look guilty. She just said, "Oh, I did some decluttering. You had so much old stuff, Henry. I thought you wouldn't miss a few things. I donated them." Donated them. Ellen's jewelry, my books, our photos, just gone. I felt something crack inside me right then, but I still didn't say anything. I went to my room and I closed the door and I sat on the edge of my bed and I cried. Not because of the stuff exactly, but because of what it meant. They didn't respect me. They didn't respect my things, my memories, my life in that house. They were treating me like I was already gone. But it got worse. So much worse. A few months in, I started hearing them talk about the house like it was already theirs. Not like they were staying in my house temporarily, but like they owned it. Jenna would talk to her friends on the phone, and I'd hear her say things like, well, when we renovate the kitchen, or we're thinking about knocking out that wall eventually. She was making plans, long-term plans, for my house. One evening at dinner, Tommy asked me something about where I would live when I got older, and before I could answer, Jenna cut in and said, "Grandpa's going to move somewhere where other people can help take care of him, sweetie, and then you'll have his room for your big boy room." She said it so casually, so matter of fact. Like it was already decided. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to correct her, to tell his son that Grandpa wasn't going anywhere, that this was still my house. But he just kept eating, didn't say a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and I realized what was happening. They weren't saving up for their own house. They were planning to take mine. They'd moved in with no intention of ever leaving. They saw me as an obstacle, something to be dealt with, moved out of the way, and the really painful part, I didn't even know if they were doing it consciously or if they'd convinced themselves this was somehow reasonable, like I owed them this. Like I was supposed to just hand over my home and go quietly into whatever assisted living facility they picked out. The disrespect reached its peak on a Sunday afternoon, about a year after they'd moved in. They'd invited some of their friends over for a barbecue in my backyard with my grill. They didn't ask me, just told me that morning that people were coming over. I was sitting in the kitchen when Jenna came in with one of her friends, talking loudly. "Yeah, we're so lucky Henry's letting us stay here," she said, but the way she said letting us dripped with something I couldn't quite name. Condescension, maybe. Though honestly, it's getting a little difficult. He's very set in his ways, you know? Old people can be so stubborn about change. Old people. She was talking about me like I wasn't sitting right there, like I was a piece of furniture that occasionally got in the way. Her friend made some sympathetic noise, and Jenna continued, "We're trying to convince him that it would be better for everyone if he moves somewhere with proper care, where there are nurses and activities and people his own age. He'd probably be happier, and we could finally make this place feel like ours." I sat there, frozen, not believing what I was hearing, but I didn't say anything, not yet, because about a week after that barbecue, everything came to a head in a way I wasn't prepared for. I was in my room one evening getting ready for bed when Mark knocked on my door. He came in holding some papers and wearing what I can only describe as a very fake smile. "Hey, Dad. Sorry to bother you before bed. I just need you to sign a few things, just some paperwork, financial stuff, estate planning documents. Just making sure everything's in order in case anything happens." He put the papers down on my dresser and held out a pen. Now, I'm old, but I'm not stupid. And something about the way he was rushing me, the way he wasn't really explaining what the papers were, it set off alarm bells. I picked up the papers and started to read them, squinting a little because the print was small and my reading glasses were in the other room. Mark sighed, sounding impatient. "Dad, it's just standard stuff. Power of attorney, medical directives, that kind of thing. We should have done this years ago. Honestly, power of attorney, medical directives, those words jumped out at me. I looked up at him and I said, "Let me get my glasses. I can't read this very well." He actually looked annoyed. "Dad, come on. It's late. Just sign it and we can go over the details tomorrow." "It's really not a big deal." Not a big deal. He wanted me to sign legal documents I couldn't even read properly, in the dark, before bed without explaining them. And it was not a big deal. For the first time in this whole nightmare, I got angry, really, truly angry. "Mark," I said, and my voice was harder than I'd used with him in probably 30 years. "I'm not signing anything I haven't read thoroughly. Leave the papers here, and I'll look at them when I have my glasses and proper light." He opened his mouth like he was going to argue, then seemed to think better of it. He nodded, said goodnight in a clipped voice, and left. After he closed the door, I sat down on my bed, my hands actually shaking. I knew something was very, very wrong. My son was trying to get me to sign something without reading it. That's not how you treat someone you love and respect. That's how you treat someone you're trying to fool. I waited until I heard him go to bed, until the whole house was quiet. Then I got up, grabbed those papers, and I read them. Every single word. Under the bright light of my desk lamp, with my reading glasses on, I read every line of that legal document, and what I found made my blood run cold. It wasn't just power of attorney, it was a quit-claim deed. They were trying to get me to sign my house over to Mark. All of it. Complete transfer of ownership, and buried in the other pages were documents that would give Mark and Jenna medical power of attorney and financial power of attorney. Complete control over every aspect of my life. If I'd signed those papers, I would have had nothing, no house, no control over my own medical decisions, no control over my own money. I would have been completely at their mercy. My own son was trying to steal my house, the house I'd spent 46 years paying for, the house I'd taken out a second mortgage on to pay for his education, the house where I'd loved my wife and raised my family. I sat there at my desk until the sun came up, just staring at those papers, and I felt something change inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep, but underneath it was something else, something cold and calculating. They thought I was a foolish old man they could manipulate. They thought I wouldn't read the fine print. They thought I'd just roll over and let them take everything I'd worked my entire life to build. They were wrong. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to yell or cry or beg them to see reason. I was going to do something much more effective. I was going to outplay them at their own game. The next morning, I came down to breakfast acting like everything was normal. Mark asked me if I'd had a chance to look over the papers, and I said, in my most doddering, confused old man voice, "Oh, these old eyes just aren't what they used to be. All that legal language just swims around on the page. I think I need to have someone help me understand it. Maybe I'll take them to my friend Gary at the bank. He used to help Ellen and me with financial stuff." I watched Mark's face carefully. There was a flash of something. Panic, maybe, but he covered it quickly. "Oh, you don't need to bother Gary with this, Dad. It's really straightforward. I can explain everything to you." I just smiled and shook my head. No, I wouldn't want to sign anything without understanding it completely. Gary won't mind. He's retired too. We'll have lunch and he can walk me through it. Mark looked like he wanted to argue, but Jenna was sitting right there, and I think he didn't want to look too pushy. So he just nodded, looking frustrated, and said, "That was, fine." But that same day, I did exactly what I said I'd do. Except Gary wasn't a banker. Gary was something much more useful. Gary was my lawyer. Gary Patterson wasn't just my lawyer. He'd been my friend for 40 years. We'd worked together at the manufacturing plant back in the day, before he went to night school and got his law degree. He'd handled Ellen's will. He'd handled my will. He'd helped us with every major legal document we'd ever needed. And more importantly, I trusted him completely. I called him that morning right after breakfast, and I told him I needed to see him urgently. He heard something in my voice because he told me to come right over, even though it was a Sunday. I drove to his house, those papers in a folder on the passenger seat, and my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I was angry, yes, but I was also scared. Scared of what this meant. Scared that I'd lost my son somewhere along the way and hadn't even noticed. Scared that I was truly alone in the world. Gary answered the door, took one look at my face, and ushered me into his study. His wife brought us coffee, and then Gary closed the door and sat down across from me. "Henry," he said quietly. "What happened?" I couldn't even speak at first. I just slid the folder across the desk to him. My hands were shaking. He opened it and started reading. I watched his face change as he went through the pages. His expression went from concerned to shocked to absolutely furious. When he finished, he looked up at me, and I've never seen Gary look so angry. "Henry, do you understand what these documents are?" I nodded. "I think so, but I want you to explain it to me. All of it. I want to know exactly what my son was trying to do." Gary took off his glasses and rubbed his face. Then he put them back on and went through the papers page by page. "This quitclaim deed," he said, tapping the first document, "would transfer complete ownership of your house to Mark. You'd have no ownership stake whatsoever. Legally, it would be his house, and he could do whatever he wanted with it, including evicting you." The word evicting hit me like a punch. They could have thrown me out of my own home. "This power of attorney," Gary continued, pointing to another page, "gives Mark complete control over your finances, your bank accounts, your pension, your Social Security, everything. He could move money, make investments, empty accounts. You'd have no say. And this," he said, his voice getting harder, "this medical power of attorney means Mark would make all decisions about your health care, what doctors you see, what treatments you get, where you live. If he decided you needed to be in a nursing home, you couldn't fight it. Not legally." I sat there, feeling sick. "So if you'd sign these, Henry, you'd have nothing. No home, no money, no autonomy. You'd be completely dependent on Mark's goodwill. And based on the fact that he tried to get you to sign these without reading them, without having them explained by independent counsel, I'd say his goodwill is severely lacking." I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I was too angry to let them fall. What kind of man does this to his own father? Gary reached across the desk and gripped my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Henry. I can't imagine how much this hurts. But you didn't sign them. You were smart enough to read them first. So now we need to talk about what you're going to do." "What can I do?" I asked. "They're living in my house. My own son is trying to rob me. What the hell can I do, Gary?" Gary leaned back in his chair, and I saw his expression shift into what I called his lawyer mode. Sharp, strategic. "You can protect yourself," he said, "and you can make damn sure they can't try this again, but you need to act fast and you need to be willing to go all the way. Are you?" I thought about everything, about the years of love and support I'd given Mark, about paying for his college, about helping with his debts, about welcoming him and his family into my home when they needed a place to stay, about how they'd repaid all of that by trying to steal everything from me. Yes, I said, and my voice didn't shake. Tell me what to do. Over the next 2 hours, Gary laid out a plan, and with every step he explained, I felt a little bit of my power coming back. First, we'd put the house into an irrevocable trust with my grandchildren, Tommy and Sophie, as the beneficiaries. Not Mark, not Jenna, the kids. The trust would take effect immediately, which meant the house would legally belong to the trust, not to me anymore. Mark couldn't contest it, couldn't change it, couldn't touch it. When I died, the house would go to Tommy and Sophie to be held in trust until they turned 25. Gary would be the trustee, which meant he'd manage everything on their behalf. But Henry, Gary said carefully, you need to understand what this means. Once you put the house in trust, you can't sell it. You can live in it for the rest of your life, but you can't use it as an asset. If you ever need money, you can't borrow against it or sell it. Are you okay with that? I didn't even hesitate. I'm 76 years old, Gary. I have my pension, my Social Security, and some savings. I don't need to sell my house. And this way, I know my grandkids will have something no matter what their parents do. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Second, we'd update my will and all my legal documents to make sure Mark had no power of attorney, no medical control, nothing. Gary would be my designated agent for all of that, someone I could actually trust. Third, and this was the part that made my stomach hurt, we'd prepare an eviction notice because Mark and Jenna were living in my house as guests, not as tenants with a lease. I had the legal right to ask them to leave. Gary said we'd give them 60 days, which was more than generous and would look good if we ever ended up in court. Do you really want to evict them, Henry? Gary asked me. Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Mark will probably never recover. I sat there for a long moment, thinking about that, thinking about Mark as a little boy, learning to ride his bike, Mark at his high school graduation, Mark on his wedding day, all those memories of the son I loved and raised. But then I thought about him trying to trick me into signing away my home. I thought about how they'd talked about me like I was already dead. I thought about Jenna throwing away Ellen's jewelry without asking. I thought about them erasing me from my own house, piece by piece. Gary, I said slowly, my relationship with Mark is already gone. I just didn't want to see it. He doesn't see me as his father anymore. He sees me as an obstacle to what he wants. And I won't live in my own house feeling like a prisoner, waiting for them to forge my signature or trick me into signing something when I'm sick or confused. I won't do it. Gary nodded. All right then, let's get to work. We spent the rest of the day drawing up documents. Gary had everything in his home office, and he called in a notary friend of his to come over that evening. By nightfall, everything was signed, witnessed, and legal. My house was in trust for Tommy and Sophie. My will was updated, my power of attorney documents named Gary as my agent, and I had a formal 60-day eviction notice ready to serve. When I drove home that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt like myself again, not like some confused old man who could be pushed around, like Henry, like the guy who'd built a life through hard work and determination, like someone who still had some fight left in him. I didn't say anything to Mark and Jenna when I got home. I just went to my room, put all my new legal documents in my safe, and went to bed. But over the next few days, I could feel the tension building. Mark kept asking me about the papers, whether I'd had them looked at yet, whether I was ready to sign them. Each time I'd put him off with some vague excuse. Oh, I've been busy. Haven't had a chance yet. Gary and I keep missing each other. My head's been a little fuzzy lately. I want to make sure I understand everything first. That last one was strategic. I started playing up the confused old man routine a little bit. Not too much, just enough to make them think their plan might still work. I'd forget where I put my keys. I'd ask the same question twice. I'd trail off in the middle of sentences. I could see it in their eyes. They thought they were winning. They thought I was declining. They probably thought it would be even easier now to get me to sign their papers or convince a court I wasn't competent to manage my own affairs. They had no idea what was coming. About 3 weeks after my meeting with Gary, Mark and Jenna sat me down at the kitchen table. They had what Mark called a family meeting. That should have been my first clue how bad this was going to get. Tommy and Sophie were at a friend's house for a play date. It was just the three of us. Jenna had made coffee, which she put in front of me like we were all going to have a nice civilized chat. Mark had a notepad, like he was taking minutes of a business meeting. "Dad," Mark started, and his voice had this patronizing tone that made my teeth clench. "We need to talk about your living situation." "My living situation?" I repeated. "You mean my house, the house I've lived in for 46 years? Jenna jumped in, her voice syrupy sweet. "Henry, we're worried about you. You're getting older, and we've noticed you seem a little confused sometimes, forgetting things, asking the same questions. It's normal at your age, but we think it's time to consider whether living alone is really safe for you." I almost laughed. I'd been playing confused on purpose, and they'd bought it completely. "I'm not living alone," I said mildly. "You're all here." "Well, yes, for now," Mark said. "But Dad, we can't stay here forever. We need our own place, eventually. And when we move out, you'll be alone again. A house this size, all the maintenance, the stairs. What if you fall? What if something happens and there's no one here to help?" This was it. This was the pitch. I could feel it coming. Jenna pulled out a brochure from her purse and slid it across the table. "We've been doing some research, and we found this beautiful assisted living facility about 20 minutes from here. It's really nice, Henry. They have activities, 3 meals a day, a nurse on staff 24/7. You'd have your own apartment, but there'd always be people around. You'd make friends with people your own age." I picked up the brochure and looked at it. Shady Pines Assisted Living. It looked nice in the pictures, clean, sterile, like a hospital pretending to be a home. "And you'd be so much safer," Mark added. "We'd have peace of mind knowing you're taken care of." I put the brochure down and looked at both of them. Really looked at them. Mark couldn't quite meet my eyes. Jenna had that fake smile plastered on her face. "And what happens to this house?" I asked quietly. They exchanged a glance. Mark cleared his throat. "Well, Dad, the thing is, maintaining an empty house doesn't make a lot of sense financially. With the property taxes and insurance and upkeep, we were thinking, since you'd be in the facility and not needing the house anymore, it might make sense to sign it over to us. That way we could live here, take care of it, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. We could use the money we'd save on rent to help pay for your facility costs." There it was. The truth laid out so plainly I almost admired the audacity of it. They wanted me to voluntarily give them my house and move into a nursing home. They'd spent weeks setting this up, talking about how confused I was, how unsafe it was for me to live alone, all to manipulate me into giving them exactly what they wanted. Jenna leaned forward, putting her hand on mine. "Henry, we're a family. We just want what's best for everyone. This way, you're safe and cared for, the house stays in the family, and Mark and I can give the kids a stable home. Everybody wins." Everybody wins, except me, who'd lose everything. I sat there, and I let them think I was considering it. I nodded slowly, like I was processing. I looked at the brochure again. "I don't know," I said finally. "This is a lot to think about. My house, moving, all of it." "Of course it is," Mark said, and he actually patted my hand like I was a child. "Take your time, Dad, but maybe not too much time. We actually put a deposit down to hold an apartment at Shady Pines. The wait list is long, but they had an opening. We need to let them know in the next 2 weeks if you're taking it." They'd put down a deposit without asking me. They were that confident I'd just go along with it. "We can go tour it this weekend if you want," Jenna offered. "See the place in person. I think once you see how nice it is, you'll feel better about everything." I nodded again. "Maybe. Let me think about it. They looked so pleased with themselves, so sure they'd convinced me. That night, after they went to bed, I called Gary and told him everything. They put down a deposit? Gary sounded incredulous. Henry, they're not even trying to hide what they're doing anymore. I know, I said. I think they really believe I'm too confused to fight back. They think they've already won. Well, Gary said, and I could hear the steel in his voice. Let's show them exactly how wrong they are. When do you want to do this? I thought about it. About all the years of hurt they'd caused. About Ellen's jewelry in some stranger's house. About my chair in the garage. About them planning my exit from my own life like I was already dead. Soon, I said. Very soon. We set a date. The following Saturday, Mark and Jenna wanted a family meeting to finalize the plan for Dad's transition, as Jenna called it in a text. They thought it would be me agreeing to sign over my house and move to Shady Pines. They had no idea it would be me serving them with eviction papers. That week was one of the longest of my life. I had to keep pretending, keep playing the confused old man, keep letting them think they were guiding me toward their solution. Every conversation felt like swallowing broken glass. Jenna took me to tour Shady Pines on Thursday. She drove chattering the whole way about how wonderful it would be, how I'd love the activities, how the food was supposed to be really good. She'd already talked to the director. She'd already picked out which apartment would be perfect for me. I walked through that facility, and I won't lie, part of me felt a deep sadness because it was nice. It really was. But it wasn't my home. It wasn't the place where I'd built my life. And the people there, they looked so tired, so resigned, like they were just waiting. I didn't want to be someone who was just waiting to die. On Friday night, I barely slept. I lay in bed in my house, the house I'd fought for, paid for, lived in for nearly half a century, and I thought about what was going to happen the next day. I thought about the look on Mark's face when he realized he'd underestimated me. I thought about whether there was any part of our relationship that could be salvaged after this. I knew the answer was probably no, and that hurt more than I can possibly express. But I also knew I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't live in fear in my own home, waiting for them to finally get what they wanted. Saturday morning came. Mark had requested the meeting for 10 a.m. He and Jenna were up early, whispering in the kitchen. I heard the coffee maker going, heard papers rustling. They were preparing too. I got dressed carefully, not in my usual weekend clothes, my old jeans and a flannel shirt, but in a pair of slacks and a button-down. I wanted to look sharp, competent, not like the confused old man they thought I was. At 9:55, there was a knock on the door. I answered it. It was Gary, holding his briefcase, looking every inch the lawyer. I heard Mark come into the hallway behind me. Dad, who's that? I turned and looked at my son. Mark, this is Gary Patterson, my attorney. I've asked him to join us for our family meeting. The color drained from Mark's face. Your attorney? Dad, why would we need an attorney for a family discussion? Because, I said, and my voice was steady and cold, this isn't just a family discussion. This is a legal matter, and I want to make sure everything was handled properly. I invited Gary in, and we all sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where Mark and Jenna had ambushed me with their concerned intervention just a couple weeks ago. But this time, the power dynamic was very, very different. Jenna was trying to smile, but it looked strained. Henry, I'm not sure we need a lawyer here. We're just talking about what's best for your future. Gary set his briefcase on the table and opened it. Mrs. Miller, Mr. Miller, I think we need to be very clear about what's actually happening here. You've spent the last several weeks attempting to convince Henry that he's incompetent to live independently. You've pressured him to sign over his house and move into assisted living. And before that, you attempted to get him to sign legal documents transferring ownership of his property and giving you complete power of attorney without explaining what those documents were or giving him the opportunity to seek independent counsel. Mark's face went from pale to red. We weren't trying to trick him. We were trying to help him. Really? Gary pulled out a folder. Because Henry brought me the quitclaim deed and power of attorney documents you asked him to sign. Would you like to explain why? Documents meant to help him would result in him having no legal ownership of his home and no control over his own finances or medical care. Jenna made a sound like she'd been slapped. Mark opened and closed his mouth, but no words came out. I found my voice then. It came from somewhere deep, somewhere that had been building for months. Did you really think I wouldn't read them, Mark? Did you really think I was so far gone that I'd just sign whatever you put in front of me? Dad, I can explain. No, I said, and the word came out hard. You don't get to explain. You don't get to spin this into something it wasn't. You tried to steal my house. You tried to take control of my entire life. You put down a deposit on a nursing home without my consent. You've spent months treating me like I'm already senile, moving my things, throwing away Ellen's belongings, talking about me like I'm not even here. You erased me from my own home piece by piece, and then you had the audacity to call it helping. Jenna started to cry. We were just worried about you. You were forgetting things, acting confused. I was acting, I said flatly. I wanted to see how far you'd go, and now I know. Gary pulled out another document. Henry has taken steps to protect himself and his assets. His house is now in an irrevocable trust for his grandchildren, Tommy and Sophie. You have no claim to it, no ability to contest it, and no power over it whatsoever. Mark's face went through about 6 different emotions. Shock, anger, panic. You can't do that? That's my inheritance? Your inheritance? I felt something break loose in my chest. Your inheritance? I'm not even dead yet, Mark. I'm 76 years old, and in perfect health, I could live another 20 years. And you're already counting my money, planning what you'll do with my house? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. My voice rose, and I didn't care. Let the neighbors hear. You looked at me and saw a pile of assets instead of your father. You forgot that I'm still a human being with rights and dignity. You forgot that this is my house, my life, my choice. But most of all, you forgot something very, very important. I stood up and I pulled out my own folder, the one with the eviction notice. You forgot that I'm not as foolish as you thought I was. I slid the notice across the table to Mark. This is a formal 60-day eviction notice. You have 2 months to find somewhere else to live. This is my house. It will always be my house, and you are no longer welcome in it. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark picked up the eviction notice with shaking hands and read it, then read it again. His face went through so many expressions I couldn't track them all. Disbelief, anger, panic, and finally something that might have been understanding, though it came far too late. You're kicking us out? His voice cracked. Dad, you're actually kicking us out? Yes, I said simply. I said, I am. Jenna stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. This is insane. We have children. Where are we supposed to go? I looked at her, this woman who'd thrown away my dead wife's jewelry, who'd called me selfish and stubborn, who'd planned to warehouse me in a nursing home so she could have my house. I don't know, Jenna. Maybe you should have thought about that before you tried to steal my home. We weren't stealing, she shrieked. We were trying to help you. You're old. You need care. Gary's voice cut through her hysteria like a knife. Mrs. Miller, I need to make something very clear. If you continue to harass Henry or attempt to pressure him in any way, we will pursue legal action. Additionally, any attempt to damage the property, remove items that don't belong to you, or interfere with Henry's peaceful enjoyment of his home during these 60 days will result in immediate legal consequences. Do you understand? Jenna's mouth opened and closed. She looked at Mark, waiting for him to do something, say something, fix this somehow. Mark was still staring at the eviction notice. When he finally looked up at me, there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Maybe it was the realization that he'd actually lost, or maybe it was the first glimmer of understanding of what he'd actually done. "Dad," he said, and his voice was quieter now. "Please, can we talk about this? Just you and me?" "No," I said. "We can't, because I don't trust you, Mark. I don't trust you to be honest with me. I don't trust you to respect me. And I certainly don't trust you not to try to manipulate me again. Everything that needs to be said has been said. You have 60 days. I suggest you use them wisely." Mark stood up, the papers still clutched in his hand. "This is really how you want to do this? You're going to destroy our family over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That's what he was calling it. A misunderstanding." Something inside me, something that had been holding on to hope that maybe, somehow, my son was still in there somewhere, finally died. "Mark," I said, and I heard my voice break, "you destroyed this family the moment you decided I was worth more to you as an asset than as a father. You did this, not me, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I failed you somewhere along the way, that I raised a man who could look at his own father and see nothing but dollar signs. But I won't let you turn me into a victim. I won't spend what's left of my life being afraid in my own home, waiting for you to finish what you started. We weren't going to hurt you." Jenna's voice was shrill again. "We were trying to give you a better life." "A better life?" I turned to her, and I let her see all the anger I'd been holding back. "You wanted to put me in a facility and take my house. How's that better for me? How does that benefit me in any way? The only people who benefit from that arrangement are you and Mark. So don't you dare stand there and pretend this was about my welfare. This was about greed, pure and simple." Gary started packing up his briefcase. "I think we're done here. Mark, Jenna, you have your notice. I'll be checking in regularly with Henry to ensure everything is proceeding appropriately. If you have any questions about the legal process, you can contact my office." He handed Mark a business card. Mark took it mechanically, still looking stunned. As Gary stood to leave, he put a hand on my shoulder. "I'll call you later, Henry. You know where to reach me if you need anything." After Gary left, the three of us stood there in the kitchen. The same kitchen where Ellen and I had made breakfast together for 30 years, where we'd helped Mark with his homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, and now it was the scene of the final destruction of our family. Mark and Jenna went upstairs without another word. I heard their bedroom door close, then I heard Jenna crying, and Mark's voice too quiet for me to make out the words. I sat down at the kitchen table and put my head in my hands, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I let myself cry. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere so deep I didn't know I could hurt that much. I cried for the son I thought I had. I cried for the family I thought we were. I cried for Ellen, who wasn't here to see this, and I was grateful for that. Even as I missed her so much, it felt like a physical wound. I cried for all the years I'd spent building something that turned out to be built on sand. But underneath the grief, there was something else. Relief, because it was done. I'd stood up for myself, I'd fought back, and I'd won. The next 60 days were brutal, not because Mark and Jenna made trouble, but because of the silence. They moved through the house like ghosts. They didn't speak to me unless absolutely necessary. Jenna's eyes were always red from crying. Mark looked hollow, like someone had scooped out his insides. Part of me wanted to comfort them because that's what 30-some years of being a father does to you. But I couldn't. Every time I felt myself softening, I remembered those papers. I remembered the quitclaim deed. I remembered them measuring my room for a nursery while I was still living in it. They started packing immediately. Boxes appeared in the hallways. I heard them on their phones at all hours, clearly trying to find a place to rent. It couldn't have been easy, trying to find somewhere big enough for a family of 4 with only 60 days' notice. Good, I thought. Let them struggle a little. Let them feel what it's like when the ground disappears from under your feet. But it was hardest with the kids. Tommy and Sophie knew something was wrong, even if they didn't understand what. Sophie asked me one day why everyone was sad, and I didn't know what to tell her. I just hugged her and said sometimes grown-ups have problems, but it wasn't her fault, and Grandpa loved her very much. Tommy, who was older, seemed to understand more. He asked me if they were moving because of something he did wrong. That broke my heart. Nobody, I told him, kneeling down to his level. You didn't do anything wrong. This is between me and your dad, but I promise you, no matter where you live, you can always visit Grandpa. Always. This will always be your home too. But Dad said we're not allowed to come back, Tommy said, his lip trembling. I felt rage flare up inside me, hot and sharp. Mark had told the kids they couldn't see me anymore. After everything, he was going to try to keep my grandchildren away from me. I found Mark in the garage packing tools that I realized with a start were actually mine. He'd just been taking them over the months they'd been here, like everything in the house already belonged to him. Mark, I said, and my voice was ice. Did you tell Tommy he can't visit me after you move out? Mark didn't look at me. He kept wrapping a wrench in newspaper. I told him this house won't be his home anymore. That's not what he said. He said you told him he's not allowed to come back. Mark finally looked up and I saw anger flash in his eyes. What do you want from me, Dad? You're throwing us out. You're taking away the kids' home. You expect me to make them think everything's fine? To bring them back here for happy little visits like nothing happened? I expect you to not punish your children for your mistakes. My voice rose. They didn't try to steal from me. They didn't try to ship me off to a nursing home. They didn't do anything except be innocent kids. And you're going to use them as leverage. You're going to keep them away from me to hurt me. Like you're hurting us, Mark shot back. You're putting my kids through an upheaval, making them change schools maybe, taking away their home. And you think I'm the bad guy? You made them live in a home where they were being taught to disrespect their grandfather, where they watched their parents plot to steal from an old man. What kind of lesson is that, Mark? What kind of values are you teaching them? Mark slammed the wrench down on the workbench. I'm teaching them to look out for family. I'm teaching them that sometimes you have to make hard choices. Hard choices? I stepped closer. The hard choice was trying to trick your senile father into signing away his house. The hard choice was putting down a deposit on a nursing home without his permission. Those were your hard choices? We were trying to help you. Stop lying. The words exploded out of me. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to yourself. You wanted my house. Just admit it. You saw an opportunity to get property you couldn't afford to buy, and you took it. You thought I was weak enough, old enough, confused enough that I wouldn't fight back. Just be honest for once in your life. Mark's face crumpled. For a second, I thought he might actually break down, but then he gathered himself, his expression hardening into something cold and unfamiliar. Fine, he said quietly. You want the truth? Yeah, we needed a house. Yeah, we thought it made sense for you to move somewhere with care since you'd be alone anyway. Yeah, we thought the house should go to us since we're family and we could actually use it. Is that what you want to hear? And you thought all of that justified forging documents and lying to me. We weren't forging anything. We just wanted you to sign documents you didn't explain, documents you tried to rush me through. Mark, I raised you better than this. Where did I go wrong? Where did the son I loved turn into someone who could do this to his own father? Mark looked away. Maybe you didn't go wrong. Maybe I just learned from the best. You always taught me to be practical, to think ahead, to plan for the future. That's all I was doing. The words hit me like a slap. I taught you to be practical, yes, but I also taught you about integrity, about honesty, about respecting people. Did you forget those lessons? Or did you just decide they didn't matter when there was something you wanted? Mark didn't answer. He just went back to packing. I made it very clear in writing through Gary that Mark and Jenna had no right to prevent my grandchildren from visiting me. We set up a formal arrangement. I could see Tommy and Sophie anytime they wanted to visit, and Mark and Jenna couldn't use them as pawns. If they violated that, Gary assured me we'd go to court for grandparents' rights. The message must have gotten through because Mark didn't say anything else about keeping the kids away. As moving day approached, I found myself feeling strange. Not regretful, exactly, but sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for the relationship I thought I had with my son. Sad for the family dinners and holidays that would never be the same. But I also felt strong. For the first time in months, I felt like myself, like Henry, not like some confused old man to be managed and manipulated, like a person with agency and rights and the willingness to fight for both. 3 days before they were supposed to be out, I came home from the grocery store to find Jenna in the living room, sitting on the couch, not packing, just sitting. She'd been crying. I almost walked past her, but something made me stop. "Are you okay?" I asked, and I hated that I still cared enough to ask. She looked up at me, mascara smeared down her cheeks. "No," she said. "I'm not okay. We found a place, but it's small. The kids will have to share a room. It's in a worse school district. Our rent is going to be twice what we could have saved living here. Everything's falling apart." I stood there, and I tried to find sympathy. I really did. But all I could think was that this was the consequence of their choices. "I'm sorry you're going through a hard time," I said carefully. "But none of this had to happen. You chose this path." "We didn't choose this," she said, her voice rising. "You chose this. You're the one evicting us. I'm evicting you because you tried to steal my house, Jenna. Cause and effect." She wiped her eyes angrily. "We weren't stealing. We thought it made sense. You don't need this big house. We do. We have kids. You're alone. It seemed logical that we'd eventually live here. We were just trying to speed up the inevitable." "The inevitable," I repeated. "You mean my death? You were trying to speed up inheriting from me?" "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant. You were counting on me dying or going into a home so you could have this house, and you couldn't wait. You had to try to force it to happen now, on your timeline." Jenna stood up, wrapping her arms around herself. "You don't understand what it's like trying to raise kids without a stable home. Moving from rental to rental, never able to put down roots. Mark grew up in this house. He wanted that for Tommy and Sophie. Then he should have worked and saved and bought his own house like Ellen and I did. We didn't inherit this. We didn't steal it from anyone. We earned it. Not everyone can do that anymore." Jenna's voice cracked. "The housing market is impossible. People our age can't afford to buy. This was supposed to be our chance." "Your chance?" I shook my head. "Your chance to take something that doesn't belong to you?" "Jenna, I'm sorry the housing market is hard. I really am. But that doesn't give you the right to my house. I'm still alive. I'm still capable. And this is still my home." She sank back down onto the couch, fresh tears flowing. "I know," she whispered. "I know it is. And I know what we did was wrong. I do know that. But, Henry, we're desperate. Can't you understand that? Can't you have some compassion?" I thought about that. About compassion, about understanding, about all the things I'd tried to teach Mark about being a good person. "I do have compassion," I said finally. "That's why I'm giving you 60 days instead of 30. That's why I'm not pressing charges for attempted fraud. That's why I'm still allowing you to see the grandkids. But my compassion doesn't extend to giving you my house. There has to be a line, Jenna. And you crossed it." She didn't say anything else, just sat there crying. I went to my room and closed the door. Moving day came on a Saturday. Mark had rented a U-Haul and he had some friends helping. I stayed in my room for most of it, listening to the footsteps and the sound of boxes being dragged down the stairs. Around mid-afternoon, there was a soft knock on my door. I opened it to find Tommy standing there, holding his favorite stuffed dinosaur. "Grandpa?" His voice was small. "We're leaving now." I knelt down and pulled him into a hug. Sophie appeared behind him and I hugged her too. I held those kids like they were the only solid things in a tilting world. "I love you both so much," I said. "And remember what I told you. You can visit anytime. This will always be your home too. Mom said it won't feel the same, Sophie said. It might not, I admitted, but I'll be here, and I'll always have cookies and stories and all the time in the world for you two. That won't change. Tommy pulled back and looked at me seriously. Dad's really mad at you. I know he is. Are you mad at him? I thought about how to answer that. I'm hurt, I said finally, and disappointed. But I still love him. That doesn't just go away. Even when people hurt us, sometimes we still love them. Then why can't you make up? Sophie asked with the simple logic of a 4-year-old. Because sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people do things that break trust, and trust is really hard to fix. Your dad and I, we have to figure out if we can fix ours, but that's our problem to solve, not yours. You two just need to be kids and know that both Grandpa and your dad love you. Mark appeared at the top of the stairs. Kids, come on, we need to go. They hugged me one more time and then ran down the stairs. I watched them go, my heart breaking all over again. Mark paused at the top of the stairs. We looked at each other across the distance. I hope you're happy, he said finally. You got what you wanted, your house all to yourself. This was never about what I wanted, Mark. This was about protecting what's mine. It's always going to be yours, isn't it? You're never going to give it up. Even when you die, we won't get it. You made sure of that. I made sure it goes to your children, to Tommy and Sophie, not to you, because they're innocent in this. And they deserve something I can give them, something stable and secure that no one can take away. Mark's jaw clenched. You know what the worst part is? I actually thought you were losing it. I thought you were getting senile and confused. I convinced myself we were doing the right thing, helping you, and you were playing me the whole time. I was protecting myself. There's a difference. Is there? He turned to go, then stopped. Don't expect us at Thanksgiving or Christmas. The kids might visit, but I'm done. I'm done trying to have a relationship with someone who trusts me so little. I trusted you my whole life, Mark, until you gave me a reason not to. He went down the stairs without another word. I heard the U-Haul start up, heard it drive away, and then the house was silent. I walked through the rooms slowly. The furniture they'd moved was back where I'd had it originally, though some pieces were gone. They'd taken them. The walls had different marks now, picture hangers where their photos had been. The whole place felt different, emptier, but also cleaner somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. I went out to the garage and found my recliner still shoved in the corner. I dragged it back into the living room, positioning it exactly where it had always been. I sat down in it, and for the first time in months, I felt at home in my own house. But I also felt profoundly alone. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into reclaiming my space. I went through every room, putting things back the way I liked them. I found some of Ellen's things that Jenna had donated at a local thrift store and bought them back, which felt like a small victory. I repainted the living room, updated some fixtures, made the place mine again. Tommy and Sophie came to visit every other weekend. Mark would drop them off and pick them up without coming inside. We didn't speak. He'd just pull up, the kids would jump out, and he'd drive away. The message was clear. He was keeping his legal obligation to let me see the kids, but nothing more. It hurt every single time. But those weekends with my grandkids, they kept me going. We'd make pancakes, we'd work in the garden, we'd build things in the treehouse, and slowly I started to feel like myself again. Not like the father who'd lost his son, but like the grandfather who still had something to give. Now, let me pause here for a minute because when I posted this story on Reddit, the response was overwhelming. Thousands of comments, and I want to share some of what people said because it helped me process what happened. The top comment with something like 15,000 upvotes said, I'm glad you protected your grandkids and not just tried to destroy your son. This is how you set boundaries without completely burning down the family. And you know what? That comment meant a lot to me because I'd spent so many nights wondering if I'd done the right thing, wondering if I'd been too harsh, wondering if there was a way I could have handled it that wouldn't have destroyed my relationship with Mark. But that comment reminded me that I didn't destroy anything. Um, I set boundaries, I protected myself, and I made sure my grandchildren would have something secure, even if their parents had lost sight of what mattered. Another comment that stuck with me said, "They forgot the house was your reward for a lifetime of work, not their starter pack." That one made me laugh, even though it hurt, because that's exactly what it felt like. They looked at my house, my life's work, 46 years of mortgage payments and repairs and love, and they saw it as something they deserved, something they were entitled to just because they were my family. People don't owe their children their assets while they're still alive. Parents don't exist to be ATMs or stepping stones for the next generation. We're people too, with our own needs and rights and dignity. Um, Someone else commented, respect your elders, or you might just find out how much paperwork we're willing to file. That one became a bit of a rallying cry in the thread. And it's true. People forget that just because we're older doesn't mean we're powerless. We've been navigating the world a lot longer than they have. We know how systems work. We know how to protect ourselves, and we're not afraid to do it. Now, I want to give you an update because this didn't end on moving day. About 6 months after Mark and Jenna moved out, I got a phone call from Mark. It was the first time we'd spoken directly since that day. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad," he said, and his voice sounded different. Tired. Smaller. "Can we talk? I'm listening." There was a long pause. I need to apologize, really apologize, not just say words. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hear what came next. "Jenna and I have been in therapy," he continued, "both couples therapy, and I've been going individually. And my therapist has been helping me understand some things about what I did, about what I tried to do to you." "Go on." I convinced myself it was practical, that it made financial sense, that it was best for everyone, but the truth is I was greedy. I saw your house as a solution to our problems, and I stopped seeing you as a person. I objectified you, and that's a horrible thing to do to anyone, but especially to my own father. My throat felt tight. "Yes," I said, "it was. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I think I always knew, but I kept justifying it to myself. The housing market is impossible. We're struggling. You're old anyway. You'd be better off with care." All these reasons that made sense in my head, but ignored the basic fact that I was trying to steal from you. You weren't just trying to steal my house, Mark. You were trying to steal my agency, my autonomy, my right to make my own decisions about my own life. "I know," his voice cracked, "and I am so, so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't know if I'd forgive me, but I needed you to know that I understand what I did. I understand how badly I hurt you, and I hate myself for it." I sat down, suddenly needing to. Why now? Why 6 months later? Because it took me that long to stop being angry and start being honest. I spent months being furious at you for choosing the house over family. That's how I framed it in my head. But my therapist kept pushing me to look at my own actions, to really look at them without the justifications. And when I did, he trailed off. "When you did, you didn't like what you saw." No, I saw someone who'd become the kind of person I used to judge, the kind of person who'd take advantage of a vulnerable family member. And the worst part is, you weren't even vulnerable. You were sharp as a tack. I just convinced myself you weren't because it made what I was doing feel more justified. "You hurt me more than anyone else ever has," I said quietly, "including when your mother died. Because at least that wasn't a choice. This was a choice. You chose to betray me." "I know." He was crying now. I could hear it, and I don't know how to make it right. I don't know if I can, but I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to understand why I became someone who could do that, and I'm trying to make sure I never become that person again. We talked for over an hour. It wasn't a magic fix. 1. Conversation doesn't erase months of betrayal and hurt, but it was a start, a small, fragile start. Over the following months, we talked more. Sometimes on the phone, sometimes when he came to pick up the kids and actually came inside for a few minutes. The conversations were stilted and awkward at first, but slowly, very slowly, we started to rebuild something. Not what we had before, that was gone forever, but something new. Something more honest, maybe, built on reality instead of assumptions. Jenna apologized, too, in her own way. She admitted she'd gotten caught up in the idea of having their dream house and stopped thinking about what it meant for me. She said she was ashamed of how she'd treated me, of the things she'd thrown away, of how she'd talked about me. Did I completely forgive them? I don't know. Some days yes, some days no. Some days I look at Mark and see my son, the boy I raised, trying to be better. Other days I see the man who tried to take everything from me, and I feel that betrayal all over again. But we're trying. That's something. As for me and my house, I've made some changes. I installed some railings on the stairs and in the bathroom. Not because I need them yet, but because I'm planning ahead. I'm going to live in this house as long as I possibly can. I've made it clear to Tommy and Sophie that this house is theirs someday, but that someday is hopefully a long time away. I built out the old guest room into a proper bedroom for when the kids stay over. I put up photos of them all over the house. I planted a new garden in the backyard, vegetables and flowers that Ellen would have loved. I joined a book club at the senior center, made some new friends, started volunteering at the local food bank once a week. I'm living my life on my terms in my house. And you know what? I'm happy. Not the uncomplicated happiness of ignorance, but the harder-won happiness of someone who fought for their dignity and won. I'm proud of myself for standing up, for not letting them make me a victim, for protecting not just my house, but my sense of self. Would I change what happened if I could? Would I go back and somehow prevent Mark from becoming the person who'd try to steal from me? I don't know. Because in a strange way, this experience taught me something important. It taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can stand alone if I have to, that being old doesn't mean being powerless. It also taught me that family isn't a given. It's something you build, and it requires respect and honesty and integrity. Without those things, being related by blood doesn't mean much. The relationship I have with my grandchildren is stronger now than it ever was because I protected their future by putting the house in trust for them, because I showed them in a very real way that it's okay to stand up for yourself even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it's family. Tommy asked me recently why I didn't just give Dad the house. I told him that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is not give them what they want, especially if they're trying to get it the wrong way. I told him that I love his father, but love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. Love means setting boundaries and hoping they learn to respect them. I don't know if he fully understood. He's only 7, but someday he will. And now, before we finish up, let me tell you a quick little story that'll make you smile. Because not all grandpa revenge is big and dramatic. Sometimes it's small and petty and absolutely perfect. I have a neighbor, a guy in his 40s named Derek. When I first got my house back to myself, Derek started parking in my driveway. Not his driveway, mine. He'd leave his car there overnight on weekends, whenever he felt like it. The first time I asked him nicely to move it. He said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't think you'd mind. You don't drive much anyway, right?" I pointed out that whether I drove much or not, it was my driveway. He rolled his eyes but moved his car. Then he did it again, and every time I asked him to move, he had some excuse. "I have guests and need the extra space. My driveway is being repaired. It's just easier for me." Always about what was easier for him. Never mind that it was my property. So I went to the HOA and filed a formal complaint. I document every time he parked there with photos and dates. I pulled out my property survey showing exactly where my lot line was, and I requested that the HOA enforce the parking regulations. The HOA sent Derek a formal warning, then a fine. Derek came over furious, asking why I was making such a big deal out of a parking space. "Because it's my parking space," I said calmly, "and you were told multiple times to stop using it. You're really going to fine me over this? What are you, 12? "I'm 76, I said. And I've learned that sometimes the only way people learn to respect boundaries is to make sure there are consequences when they don't. Derek paid his fine, and he never parked in my driveway again. Now, when I see him, he won't make eye contact. He'll cross the street to avoid walking past my house. And you know what? I don't feel bad about it, not even a little bit, because I spent months having my boundaries violated by my own family. I wasn't about to let some entitled neighbor do it too. Respect isn't about being nice all the time. It's about making clear what you will and won't accept and following through. Derek thought because I was old, I'd just put up with his inconvenience. He learned otherwise. Sometimes being a grandpa means teaching lessons, even to people who aren't your grandkids. So that's my story. The story of how my son tried to steal my house and how I made sure he'd never try something like that again. The story of how I protected myself, my home, and my grandchildren's future. The story of how one old man decided he still had some fight left in him. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding that this wasn't about being cruel or vindictive. This was about survival, about dignity, about refusing to become invisible just because I've got some years on me. To anyone out there dealing with family members who think being old means being easy to push around, you're stronger than you think. You have rights. You have agency, and you're allowed to protect yourself, even if it means protecting yourself from family. Document everything. Know your legal rights. Don't sign anything you haven't read thoroughly and had explained by someone you trust. And never, ever let anyone convince you that standing up for yourself is selfish. You've earned your peace. You've earned your home. You've earned the right to live out your days on your own terms. Don't let anyone take that from you. And to the people who think they can take advantage of the elderly in their lives, remember that we've been around a long time, we've seen a lot, we know things, and we're not as helpless as you think we are. We might move slower, we might need reading glasses, but our minds are sharp, our memories are long, and our lawyers are on speed dial. Test us at your own risk. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's being pushed around by family, or someone who thinks grandpas are pushovers. Leave a comment and let me know, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have handled it differently? Have you dealt with something similar? This is Ruthless Retribution, reminding you that revenge doesn't have to be violent or dramatic. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim. Sometimes it's protecting what's yours and living well despite those who try to take it from you. Until next time, remember, respect goes both ways, and just because someone is family doesn't mean they have the right to disrespect you. Take care of yourselves out there, and never ever forget that you matter, no matter how old you are. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see.